Well, are you ready for the beast? That's something that we've been hearing about and thinking about for a while. I want to talk about that today. Before we get to that, let you know that just put up one on the Patreon channel. If you're not with us there, you can join us. The link is down below on making money during a depression. I talked yesterday about a possible coming depression. Had people ask me, "Are you centered here?" Let's see. Had people ask me, "Well, how can we make money during a depression?" That was a great question, so I answered that on the Patreon channel. And that's something that everybody ought to be paying attention to and thinking about, preparing for it now, before it gets you. Some people think we're in depression now. No, we're not. We're not. But it could be coming. And if you think this is a depression, just wait. And then I just put one up over on Prepping for Prosperity, too, about the proper use of credit and debt credit, everything like that. I think a lot of people have a wrong idea about that. A lot of people have a very irresponsible idea about that. And so if you're interested in that, as it applies to preparedness and life, go to the Prepping for Prosperity channel and you'll see that. I think the link is down in the information section for both of those. I hadn't done anything on the Prepping for Prosperity channel for a long time because the reason that I did it is I split it off from this channel because every time I talked about things, on financial things on this channel, I'd get a bunch of Dave Ramsey cultists just yelling and screaming. And I finally said, I'm not going to talk about it here anymore. This has to be something for people who really are willing to learn and take it from somebody who's owned businesses for many, many, many years. Okay, so that's over on the Prepping for Prosperity channel. And the major thing before we get into getting ready for the beast, the major announcement, I already showed this to the people on Patreon, but the proof copy for my new book on Wings Like Eagles just came in yesterday. I have several proof copies, and what happens is when I get done with a book, I send it off to the publisher, and I request a few proof copies, which is what this is not for resale. I don't know why they do that, as if they think I would want to go out and sell one book to make a living, or three. But then I go through it and try to find all my typos. I give a copy to Kelly, and she finds more than I do, and then I'm sending another one to a friend. Some of you all on Patreon who are watching us on Patreon, Link Lambeth. What you may not know is he's a college professor and he's a friend, and he very nicely offered to do a copy edit on this, looking for those typos. Say a prayer for Link. He's going to need it, right? We'll see. I try to catch him most, but we will see. So that's what we're going. And then I make all the changes and I send it back and I give the okay to the publisher and they make it available. And it'll be available, like all my other books, on Amazon or through our website, stonemont.us. Okay, let's get to the... Whoa, almost knocked you over. You okay? Let's get to the the subject at hand. Getting ready for the beast. What many people will think about the beast biblically, as it's revealed in Revelation. Nothing wrong with that. We can see indications of steps towards something like that. I'm not going to get into the whole thing there. I have talked about this, I think, on the church channel, so I'm not going to get wrapped up in it. There's a whole lot of different ways to look at that, okay? A lot of different ways. And please don't leave, 9 chapters of scripture in the comments. I'm going to take it off. This is not the place for that, okay? Feel free to do it on your channel, or however you want to do it, but that's just not what this channel is for. I refer to the government as the beast. When I've said that my time in the government, I saw the inside of the beast, and the beast can be referred to as many different things, but whatever it is an all-consuming total control over your life, and it's coming, and you need to be prepared for it. I was watching something yesterday on what is the name of the channel? I don't watch it a lot. I like the guy. I just don't have time, as many of you know, to watch a lot of other channels, and it is Rebel Capitalist. That's the name of it, Rebel Capitalist. And he did one on, I think it was yesterday. You can find it on YouTube, or when I put this one on Patreon, I'll put the link down. By the way, we've got a whole lot of new people join Patreon, and welcome to you all. Good to have you. If you're not with us on Patreon, a lot of extra stuff gets put on the Patreon channel. It is well worth your one measly dollar a month if you want to actually get more. And a lot of people join on the Stone Mountain level, the $5. Do what you want. And his video yesterday was talking about MasterCard implementing something in Europe requiring biometric sign-in on credit cards. And what that means is your credit cards, and I'm not sure if it's maybe your debit cards too, I forget, probably, that there's not going to be any numbers on there. You're going to just put your thumbprint on your card, or like when you go in to buy anything, in order for your transaction to be accepted, you're going to have to put your thumbprint on something, some kind of reader that they have there, and then it will come out of your account. Well, it really is. I mean, it's the next step towards a CBDC, right? A central bank digital currency. You know, although this is going to be not necessarily a central bank, it's going to be MasterCard. But you get to the point where, you know, where does government end and corporations begin? And the two, they're so mixed up together right now. Excuse me just a second. Okay, sorry, my across the cul-de-sac neighbor came out and I need to say something to him. That's a good thing about living in the suburbs. I know all of my neighbors, all of them. You know, I hear people talk about, well, you don't know your neighbors. I know all my neighbors. I've always known all my neighbors, whether I live down in the city or out here in the suburbs. I don't understand people that don't know their neighbors. You might wonder whose fault that is, right? But anyway, that this is the next step, you know, towards this one world corporate government, I might call it, and it is something that's going to continue to control and consume different parts of your life. How do you combat that? Well, one of the ways, and you know, if it's happening in Europe, because the Europeans have been, you know, I mean, they've been boiling in the pot for a lot longer than we have. If you know much about Europe, you know that they are very accepting of government control. Not and nothing against. I know we have people watch us from Europe, you know, from the UK, from Germany, from Finland, from Norway, from all sorts of, and it may not apply to you. And so I don't mean to you know, paint everybody with the same brush, and it's certainly no. I'm not denigrating any group of people. What I'm saying is, because of history, because of, well, you can take it back to World War I, World War II, and even before that, that the people of Europe are more used to government control and more accepting of it. And that doesn't mean everybody. Many are just as independent minded as Americans, and many Americans are just as corporate and safety minded as Europeans. So, you know, people are people wherever they are. But in the United States, we have had more of a history, and it's a short history, of being rather independent and rebels. You know, I mean, this whole country was built on rebels, right? My great whatever was named Wyatt. That's what I named my main character in my book, and he was the one that started Wyatt's rebellion in England, and then we rebelled against England, and then where my family's from down south, we rebelled against the United States. So we're just a bunch of rebels. We don't take to somebody's boot on our neck very well. But the boot's coming, and it's important to be able to function, to continue to function while they're trying to put that boot on our neck, right? And this is why I've concentrated, more so on the Patreon channel, why I've talked a lot about being able to function and prosper under oppression, under an oppressive government, under an oppressive employer. A lot of us get our experience living under oppression by living under the oppressiveness of employers, right? It's a good training ground. It's not the war, but it's maybe a good basic training. So it's coming, and this is simply the next step. This biometric necessity to sign in, and I'm sure that it will be here fairly quickly. It's like everybody who has an iPhone. I mean, all my kids have iPhones. I don't. This is an Android. I'm thinking about going over to iPhone, but the different companies. Every time I turn around, they're doing something that I don't like. But you have to make your choices, right? Because, to be honest, communications is very important. And if I didn't have some kind of a phone, I wouldn't be able to talk to you all. But they have their facial recognition on their phones, right? Yeah, don't tell me that I shouldn't let them do that. Don't worry, I've got things covered. All right, I'm thinking down the road, and there's reasons that you might not have thought of that you might want to do that. Let me say this. I'll just throw in this little tidbit, this little nugget of wisdom. What do the people like to call it? Pro tip. Pro tip. If you want to stand out, or let me say, if you want to draw attention, be the one that stands out. Be the one who doesn't go along with the crowd. Now, you see, you have to, and then the attention is going to be focused on you. It's like the people say, I don't use credit cards. I don't use debit cards. I don't buy anything online. Okay, well, whatever, you're making your life a lot harder. But you don't realize it. You think you're under the radar? No, you've put yourself on top. Who's this guy? We don't see any activity from him. Let's take a closer look at him. If I was in charge of the one world government, that's what I'd do. But, they have their facial recognition. The day will come to where you won't be able to sign into your computer without it being your face. You won't be able to buy anything on there without your face or your thumbprint on the little pad on your laptop or on your desktop or whatever. Those days are coming. You can't stop it. And rather than this being a message of negativity, what I'm saying is you need to start planning for and developing a plan to live not without that, but also on a separate plane. Okay, this is what I've talked about. It's kind of what I talked about on the Patreon channel today. How to make money during a depression. You're going to be making money. You're going to be engaged in commerce in ways that are outside the normal channels. Let's just put it that way, okay? The mob showed how you can do it very effectively. Why did the mob fall down? I discuss that on Patreon. And, nobody here should do anything immoral, Now, illegal? Ask yourself this. If something is illegal, does that necessarily make it immoral? As Paul Harrell says, you be the judge. So you have to think about this. You have to plan. And you have to develop ways to work, shall we say, systematically, in addition to the system, outside the system, underneath the system, however you want to phrase it. You do have to. You have to think about that. And without me going into detail, here again, I cover this more on the Patreon channel. Think about it yourself. Because if you don't think about it yourself, you're going to be you're going to do a poor job at simply trying to follow ideas that somebody else gave you. It takes creativity. It takes intelligence. It takes imagination. Every time there's a new way to try to control people, other people come along and develop ways to work outside that control, right, or to overthrow that control or whatever. It's not going to change. It's just technology is definitely changing our world, but it doesn't change the basics. And the basics is that most people are sheep and they'll want to go along, and there will always be those who aren't and don't. And the ones who aren't and don't are the ones who create ways to effectively allow them to effectively operate in the ways that they prefer, as opposed to the way that the system wants them to. And that's in your hands. You have to figure out how to do that. Develop ways to make a living. Develop more ways to make money. And I hammer this, and I hammer this, and I hammer this. And the guy who thinks that preparedness is, like I say, being able to build a lean-to with a piece of string and a jackknife, isn't going to want to hear it. But he's not going to do well either in the coming world. You have to decide. We talk about at the end of our every video, I say we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. Living in a lean-to out in the woods is not living well as far as I'm concerned. And I know. Well, it's very peaceful, and it's back to nature, and I'm closer to God and all. I know. I've been there, and I've lived a very simple life. And if that's what you prefer, good for you. God bless you. I hope you do it well, and I hope you have a very long and happy and peaceful life. For the most part, most people aren't going to do that. Yeah, most people aren't going to do that. And when we talk about prepare well today, did I show you? I didn't even announce. Remember the upcoming summer gathering. Integrative Preparedness Stonemont Summer Gathering coming up July 13th in Lenexa, Kansas. All the information that you need is down in the links in the information box or over on the Patreon channel in the links down there below. Hope you can join us. It doesn't cost anything, but you do need to register because I want to know how many people are coming. We have to cut it off at a certain point, and anybody who comes will be able to get one of these mugs at cost. Brings the cost way down because I don't have to pay for shipping. They'll be there for you when you get there, and I don't build any profit into it. So this is the memento for the gathering. Only those who come this first year will get this one that says first annual. Nobody will ever be able to get a first annual again. You can get a second annual next year if you can't make it this year and you come next year. Because I'm going to do it every year. I think I've decided that. Because I'm looking forward to it. But we prepare well today, as it says, we prepare well today. That means you need to be able to live well in whatever this world brings. And that doesn't mean, and I know I can hear you. I hear the person out there, not you, but I hear the person behind you tapping on their keyboard or on their phone saying, I'm not going to go along with the beast. I'm as familiar with you as you are with the biblical beast and the book of Revelation and Matthew and Daniel and Ezekiel and Isaiah and all these. I'm very familiar with that. No, I'm not going to go along with that beast either. Okay? But everything doesn't necessarily, every technological advance isn't necessarily the beast. Sometimes it's just technological advance. You have to decide to what extent you're going to participate in it, and the extent when you decide not to. After that, your life becomes more difficult, and after a certain point, that's the proper decision to make. But make it for yourself. Until that time, I just want you to be aware of what's coming, and that's why it's important to be able to function outside of the beast system. And that's why it's important to develop more ways to function outside the beast system. If you want a little bit more information on that, like I say, I know I say this a lot, but I wish more of you would get over to the Patreon channel because that you get so much more over there. If you're really interested in preparedness, that's where you need to be. On YouTube, I try to get you to understand why you need to get going, and to give you some kind of pep talk and give you some kind of motivation. Here's what the big thing is coming. You need to be ready for it, and you need to have a certain mindset for that. On Patreon, we get down into the details of here's more details of what's coming. and here's what you might want to do about it. Okay? All right, one more sip before I let you go, because coffee tastes so good out of that mug. Okay. Be aware of what's happening in the world. Don't get consumed by it. Don't get all wrapped up by it. Don't get all upset about it. Oh, just a second. You headed to work?
Yeah.
Okay, just a second. The camera's running. I'm going to stop you for just a second because my oldest son is going to work, and I always stop whatever I'm doing to say goodbye to my kids. Okay. I always stop it for my wife or kids. So anyway, whatever I was saying, be aware. Pay attention to what's going on in the world. Don't let it consume you. Don't let it make you anxious. Let it make you aware, and then take the steps that you need to prepare for it. Okay? All right. Good. Remember the gathering. Remember this. The book will be ready pretty soon. And remember that we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. Get out there. Do something. You're going to want to live well tomorrow, and you're not going to live any better than you prepare to. Okay? Y'all have a great day. I'll talk to you later. Bye.